Is TikTok a sinister force, a festering pit of societal decay that must be dismantled? Or could it be the shining beacon of free speech and creative expression that we've all been waiting for? For the 170 million Americans on TikTok, this weekend brings some bad news. There's a federal ban set to take effect. The reason? Well, many believe it's a Chinese spy operation, collecting your data and sharing it with the Chinese Communist government. Scary stuff. I'm all for national security, and this is a crucial debate. How do we balance free speech and expression with the need to protect ourselves from foreign surveillance that could be used against us? But beyond the political implications, the bigger issue with TikTok and all social media is the profound impact it has on our brains and how we connect with each other. And the reason this is important for people of faith, specifically Christians, is our entire premise and belief on how God works is that He uses relationships. And in order to show us how much He loves us, God didn't just beam in on a hologram. The ultimate expression of God's love, as John chapter 1 puts it, is that the Word became flesh. This idea of logos, or the Word becoming flesh, for the ancient philosophers, logos was always thought of as this brain or energy that holds the universe together, but it didn't have a personality and it could actually not speak to people. So the gospel flips this narrative on its head. This powerful force that holds the universe together is actually Jesus, who became flesh. He is the ultimate expression of God's love and revelation. Logos has a personality. If we want to know who God is, all we have to do is look at the person of Jesus. The core idea that science is beginning to validate is that the medium is as important as the message. It's not just that Jesus had a great message of love. He showed up in person and showed what that looks like in real life. He lived a life like we do. He had cares and taxes, and he had a mother and a father to take care of. He had brothers and sisters. He lived a life like us. He also suffered loss, which is why that popular commercial right now of He Gets Us is so impactful. It's not enough to merely say we love people. The church has to take its cue from Jesus and also show up. And despite its flaws, the church historically has been pretty good about this. During medieval times, the monasteries preserved art and created economic engines through trades like brewing and leather making, and started hospitals and universities. Why? Because they looked at Jesus and decided to show up. As a modern translation of John chapter 1 puts it, the Word became flesh and moved into the neighborhood. And this is where social media can have a devastating impact. It really creates this dismembered experience where we're seeing messages on a screen without the presence of the person speaking, and it leads to a skewed perception of reality. Those flashy cars and nice homes and that perfect family vacation you see online, they're just partial snapshots. We don't actually witness the arguments that occurred before the picture was taken between husband and wife, or the influencer that looks super flashy and rich, but really they're struggling with debt. We don't see the behind the scenes, yet we internalize these curated images and think our lives should be mirrored to theirs for us to be happy, but it's all an illusion. So the result, well, we get a disembodied experience that can lead to mental breakdowns when our real lives don't match the highlight reels on our screens. Recent studies have shown that there's a direct link between social media addiction and declining mental health among youth. A review found that using social networking sites is associated with higher risks of anxiety, depression, and even psychological distress. In addition, our attention spans have suffered greatly. These new communication mediums that are invented, they impact how much we can pay attention to each other. For example, the printing press, it paved the way for long-form communication and ignited the Enlightenment and democracy. Sort of the pen is truly mightier than the sword. Then came along television, and it shortened our attention spans to 2 hours. A stark contrast to the days of reading we used to do when we had Lord of the Rings, which took 50 to 60 hours to read. And now TikTok, Instagram, social media is changing the game even more. We're not even aware of how much it's shortening our attention spans. It's all the way down to about 15 seconds. I mean, seriously, when was the last time you watched a movie at home without taking out your phone and having a second screen? It's really tough. And the most damaging part with a 15-second attention span that we now have is we start to communicate in real life the same way we are communicated to on social media, which means we talk in about 15-second increments, and if we're trying to connect to a spouse or a child, if they become annoying or if they don't agree with us, we cut them off, just like when we're watching a short on social media and we don't like it in 2 seconds, we just scroll to the next one. And when we do that in real life, what happens is we have conflict and confusion, and really we've become the medium that we use. We've become really short attention people that have very little patience for one another. And this has wreaked havoc on our civic discourse, our relationship with spouses, families, colleagues. Here's the reality. Social media isn't going anywhere. Whether TikTok gets fully banned or not, there will be other forms, other apps that allow us to sort of have this quick fire communication style. But I think we should use it carefully like a tool. A tool useful in other areas is damaging in another area. For example, you wouldn't use a sledgehammer to put together an IKEA dresser. It would damage it. You would use a smaller, wrench or screwdriver. And similarly, I don't think we should be using social media as a quick fix for relationships. For relationships with people, we should be following the example of Jesus, showing up in person, listening, sort of moving into the neighborhood, being present. While social media and TikTok and all those apps have their uses, they're the wrong tools to build the most meaningful relationships that we have today. So, what do you think? How can we balance social media, TikTok, Instagram with our relationships? Are you sad to see TikTok go? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and liked it, please subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.